You think the army will still love you after finding out who your father really is? Jimin's voice broke. The microphone in front of him was constantly on, recording everything. His voice echoed inside the glass room of the studio, splitting the dense air with tension. Across the table, Jungkook froze, his wide eyes staring at Jimin without blinking. There was something in the look in his eyes, a mixture of shock, fear, and something more ancient, a sense of betrayal that a flash of camera light flashes, stealing every second of that slow destruction that Jungkook's whole body was cold. The ambience of the room changes. The cinnamon scent of the studio diffuser is now sickening. The hum from the overhead speakers rang in his ears, adding to the fog in his mind. He opened his mouth, wanting to argue, but the words stuck in his throat. The small microphone clamped to his collar felt like a shackle. Jimin, realizing his mistake too late, fell silent. Breathing is heavy. He reached out, as if he wanted to pull his words back from the air, but it was too late. All cameras are recording, everyone's watching, including the people Jungkook has been trying to hide from the world. They were supposed to record a relaxing content, a silly trivia game for the official channel. Small jokes, punitive bets, laughter. But everything changes once one of the idle trivia questions makes Jimin feel cornered. And when that emotional pressure kicks in, dark truths that should never have been mentioned come out unfiltered. Jimin didn't mean any harm. But in an instant, everything was destroyed. I trust you, Hyung. Why should you? Jungkook thought, holding back the tears that in her mind. Snippets of childhood flashed. The big hand that always pulled her out of danger. The deep voice that taught her the first song. The proud gaze of a man with whom she had kept her identity a secret. His father was not a figure that the world could take for granted, because the man has a dark past, a history that, if revealed, will change the way people look at Jungkook forever. Jungkook got up slowly. His chair shifted violently, creating a heartbreaking dragging sound. His face was pale, his hands were shaking. Jimin whispered, "Sorry. I didn't mean to, Kook. But the world doesn't care if it's intentional or not. The world only cares about sensations. And the world now knows some of the secrets Jungkook is desperately protecting." Jungkook lowered his head, letting the first tears fall. Click. The camera captures everything. Just as Jungkook turned to leave, his phone vibrated in his pocket. An incoming message from a person who should have long disappeared from his life. The message contained only one sentence. "Now it's time for you to know the truth, John Jungkook." Jungkook's phone screen glowed in his grasp, the words burning his eyes hotter than the studio's spotlights. Asterisk. "Now it's time for you to know the truth, John Jungkook." Asterisk. The night breeze burst in from the not yet completely closed studio door. The cold air bit into his skin, but Jungkook barely regained consciousness. His heart was pounding wildly, cold sweat seeping down the back of his neck that he gulped, staring at the name of the sender of the message. Asterisk asterisk no caller ID. Asterisk asterisk no name. There are no numbers, just a message, and the fear that creeps in. That night, many years ago, he heard a faint conversation from behind the door of the house. His father's voice, deep, loud, full of anger. The name his father gave him at the time. The name of a person who is forbidden to mention in their family. Someone who now, for some reason, sends him a message. Behind him, footsteps approached, in a hurry. "Jungkook," called Jimin, his voice hoarse, half whispering, half pleading. Jungkook ignored him. The phone vibrated again. "If you want to know everything, come to this address. Alone. Below it, there is a pinned location. An old house on the outskirts of Seoul. Asterisk. What if it's a trap? Asterisk. Jungkook thought. Asterisk. But what if it's about Dad? About a bigger secret? Asterisk. Maybe. Just maybe. His life was never as he had always believed. His hand trembled as he tapped the screen, saving that location. There was a strange impulse in him. Fear and curiosity mixed together. "Hyung, don't go there," said Jimin, now standing in front of her, holding her arm. I'll explain everything. I know more than you think." Jungkook's gaze was sharp, his eyes burning. For the first time in years, he felt alone in the world. "Why should I trust you again?" The whisper is bitter. He broke free from Jimin's grip, stepped into the darkness of the night, leaving the studio lights that now felt cold and cruel. Cars are speeding on the deserted streets of Seoul. The radio is on quietly, playing an old song that for some reason feels terrible tonight. Every street light that passes by is like splitting the darkness into pieces of bitter memories. Every pulse in his temples beat rhythmically with a thickening fear. When he finally arrived, the house looked like something tucked away from the past. Old, rickety, chipped paint, broken windows. But there were dim lights burning from the inside that someone's waiting. Jungkook took a deep breath, preparing himself. He stepped onto a wooden terrace that creaked under the weight of his body. His hands shook as he knocked on the door. No answer. Silence until the end. The door opened a little on its own, giving off the scent of old wood and something heavier, like a secret that had been kept for too long. "Come in, Jungkook," said an old voice from inside. A voice that oddly enough sounded familiar. As Jungkook stepped in, his eyes adjusted to the darkness. In the corner of the room, under the light of a slowly swinging chandelier, seen an old man with dark eyes, smiling faintly at his front desk. There was a pile of old pictures of little Jungkook, his father, Dan, a person whose face is deliberately crossed out in black. "You should know who actually saved your life back then, Jungkook, and that's not your father. Your father, not the person you thought you were," whispered the old man, his voice hoarse, as if carrying a burden from lost years. Jungkook froze in the doorway, his body heavy as if nailed to a creaking wooden floor. The musty smell of the room pierced his nose, the smell of wet wood, dust, and something even more faint, the smell of rotting memories. He swallowed hard. Old chandeliers swayed softly over their heads. Their shadows danced on the walls like ghosts of the past. "What do you mean?" Jungkook's voice broke in the air. The old man smiled faintly, as if satisfied at Jungkook's surprise. Then, with trembling hands, he shifted a stack of photos before Jungkook. The pictures turned yellow with in one of the photos. A long-haired young woman is seen hugging a small baby. Jungkook recognizes the face. That's his mother, but in the next photo, a man stands behind them, his hand touching his mother's shoulder. Not Dad. The man had eyes that, Jungkook realized, bitterly closely resembled his own, the eyes he always sees in the mirror. The eyes that now make him shiver. "Your father is not John Hyun-soo," the old man said slowly, mentioning the name of Jungkook's father. "He raised you, yes, but he's not your flesh and blood." The room seemed to be spinning. Jungkook took a step back, bumping into the table until several photos fell scattered. "No way," he muttered. "You're lying." The old man let out a long sigh, his eyes softened. "I know it's hard, but you have to know who you really are before this secret destroys you. All the time, my life is a lie. Asterisk, asterisk, who am I really? Asterisk, asterisk, why no one ever said? Asterisk." His throat felt choked. He wanted to scream, wanted to run away, but his body felt heavy, as if the whole world was conspiring to hold him in place. The old man took a shabby envelope from his pocket and handed it to Jungkook. "This, a letter from your mother," he said. "He wants you to know when the time is right. And the timing, it's here." With trembling hands, Jungkook received the envelope. The smell of old paper wafted as he opened it. In it, a handwritten letter. The first sentence made his blood clot. Asterisk. "I'm sorry I had to hide this from you, Jungkook. Your real father is not the man you call Dad." Asterisk. The letter then mentions a name that makes Jungkook fall to his knees. That name, Parkjimin. Vague images flashed through his head. The image of a man who sometimes appeared in his dreams, a warm smile that he never understood. Now that all makes sense. Parkjimin. Who is he? Why does the name feel like a door to a darker abyss? Suddenly, a loud creaking sound was heard from behind the house. Jungkook turned his head, his breathing choked. The light of the car headlights illuminates the windows. There were fast-moving figures outside. The old man approached in a panic, pulling Jungkook back. "They already know you're here," he whispered. "Who are they?" exclaimed Jungkook, confused. The man just looked at her, his eyes burning with fear. "The people who killed your father." Before Jungkook could ask any further, a a loud voice sounded. Asterisk, asterisk, brack. Asterisk, asterisk, the back door was slammed hard. Someone, or something, is trying to get in, and they didn't come to talk. Okay. We jumped straight to episode 4, still cinematic in style, full of tension, emotional, and of course with a cliffhanger at the end. Brack. The sound of the back door crashing like a small explosion followed by a black shadow calling into the house. The old man grabbed Jungkook's arm with surprising force. Time to run away, he hissed, his eyes widening in fear. Without thinking, Jungkook was dragged into a narrow hallway filled with dust and cobwebs. Every second felt like it was beating inside Jungkook's head. Hard, pounding, shaking his breath, they ran through a dark alley. The smell of musty, bad wood, and something foreign. The smell of sweat mixed with fear filled the air. Behind, there was the sound of heavy steps hitting the floor, chasing. The old lights flickered. The shadows of the pursuers danced like monsters in a nightmare. What do they want from me? Jungkook shouted in the middle of his breath. The old man didn't answer. Just hint a finger at the lips, then point to the small door at the end of the hallway. There, he whispered sharply. They almost reached that door at the sound of asterisk, asterisk, bang. Asterisk, asterisk. A gunshot echoed from behind, and a bullet hit a wooden wall just inches from Jungkook's head, sending splinters of wood flying. Without thinking, the old man pushed Jungkook to the door, opening it loudly. Behind the door, a narrow staircase that descends into the basement. You have to get out of here yourself, he said quickly. I will arrest them. No, I can't leave you. Jungkook shook his shoulder. However, the man's gaze was harsh, full of resignation. If you stay, you will die in vain. Jungkook gritted his teeth. In a way, she hates leaving this man, the only one who seems to know who he really is. On the other side, the sound of the pursuer's steps was already very close. Asterisk, I have to survive. I need to know the full truth. Asterisk with a heavy heart. He went down the stairs. The old wooden staircase creaked in horror under the steps. When he reached the bottom, he looked up, just as the door was slammed back by the old man, leaving him alone in the dark. The room was stuffy and dark, lit only by glimmers of light from the cracks of the boards. There was a smell of wet earth and rusty iron in the corner of the room. A small vault stood, tightly locked. Curiosity gnawed at Jungkook stronger than fear. Asterisk, what are they hiding here? Why me? Why is my life so full of lies? Asterisk, his hands trembled as he approached the closet. Suddenly, there was a heavy sound from above. The old man screamed, and then another gunshot. Jungkook held his breath, his eyes wet. He forced himself to stay focused. The only way is forward. With limp knees, he rummaged through the room, looking for something to open the vault. Finally, he found a rusty old crowbar. With all his strength, he opened the closet door. The door opens, and inside, there was a pile of old documents, a hand-recorded cassette labeled Minyuk 1999, and a small shiny object, star-shaped gold pendant. He lifted the locket. Behind it is engraved something with a small letter asterisk to my son, John Jungkook. Asterisk, Jungkook's world seems to have stopped, but before he could process what he had found, the sound of heavy footsteps approached from the top of the stairs. Someone's shadow covered the light. Someone has found it. And this time, there is no other way out. A cold voice sounded from the top of the stairs. Finally found it, that bastard. Someone took up arms, aiming at him in the middle of the darkness. Put it down, boy. The harsh voice echoed, filling the narrow basement and smelling of damp earth. Jungkook froze, the gold pendant still clasped tightly in his hand. At the top of the stairs, a stocky figure stood, his silhouette faint behind the dim light. But the grip of the gun in his hand seemed very real, very deadly. Jungkook's breath hurts. His hands are sweating. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears as loud as a war drum. I have to give up? Or fight? The smell of metal from the gun, the cold from the ground, the sound of rats running in the corner of the room, and the sound of an old clock ticking out of nowhere sliced the air. Every second felt like a span of time splitting the world. Without a moment to think any longer, Jungkook lifted the pendant, swinging it towards the gunman. A golden flash cut through the air, exactly hit the man's temple. The man jerked back. The gun fell, bouncing on the floor. Jungkook ran. He grabbed the gun before the man had time to fully come to his senses and then aimed it. Although his hands were shaking violently, they stared at each other. The man growled. Blood dripped from his temples. I've never shot anyone. I'm not a killer. But if I doubt, I can die. His voice came out hoarse. What do you want from me? Who am I really? Jungkook gritted his teeth. The man grinned. His tongue glanced at the blood from the corners of the lips. You think the world will let you live once it finds out who your father is? Degree 1 sentence is like a bomb going off in Jungkook's head. Why father? The man laughed short. Crazy. You're nothing, John Jungkook, he said, taking half a step closer. Or I should have called. Jungkook Min. Jungkook took half a step back, the gun still outstretched. Min? What do you mean? The man raised both hands, feigned surrender. Your mother's name is John, but your real father, the man the world thought was dead, his name is Minhyuk. Those words hit Jungkook like a sledgehammer. It staggered, as if the whole gravity of the world changed. Minhyuk? The name on the tape. Why is everyone trying to kill me just for that? His eyes are heating up. The hand gripping the gun began to shake uncontrollably. The man saw a crack. With lightning-fast movements, he attacks, pushing Jungkook until his gun bounces off. They wrestled, rolled on the dirty ground, punched each other, banged each other on the head. The man's hand gripped Jungkook's neck, pushing hard against the floor. His eyes were red. His breath smelled of tobacco and hatred. If you live, the world will burn, he hissed. Jungkook flailing, looking for anything to fight. His hand found something, an old cassette tape that had been in the closet. Without thinking, he hit the man on the head with the tape. Krak. The man staggered. Long enough for Jungkook to gather his strength and kick him towards the weathered wooden pole behind. Prak. The pillar collapsed. The floor above them shook violently. Sudden disaster room collapses. Dust and wood chips are falling. A huge beam fell, hitting the man's head, leaving him lying motionless. Jungkook coughed amidst a cloud of dust. He has to get out before everything collapses. With a pendant and a broken cassette in his hands, he ran in search of a way out. His legs were shaking. His lungs were burning. I'll find out the truth, whatever the price. As Jungkook barges out into the dark and windy night, the sound of his cell phone goes off. Unknown number. With his heart still beating, he lifted. A female voice whispered from the other side. If you want to know why Jimin betrayed you, meet me where we met first, before everything fell apart. The connection is lost. Jungkook stood transfixed under the moonlight, trembling. I keep the story cinematic, tense, emotional, with a sharp cliffhanger at the end. Here we go. Don't come alone, or you'll never know who you really are. Asterisk. The voice on the phone echoed in Jungkook's head as he stood in the pouring rain. He was soaked. His breathing was heavy. The pendant trembled in his grip. The old building in front of him looked like a black monster in the darkness of the night. The former BTS's old training ground before debut. A place that used to be full of laughter. Now it feels like a tomb. It rained heavily, drenched the pavement, creating a monotonous, piercing gurgling sound. The street lights flickered like they were going to die at any moment. The smell of wet asphalt mixes with the metallic smell of rust from an old iron fence. Jungkook's footsteps echoed, one-on-one, like a drumbeat toward execution. Asterisk. How could Jimin betray? Asterisk. We swore together that our family is the only real one. Asterisk. But pieces of memory sprung up. Jimin's guilty look at the press conference. Intermittent sentences in the waiting room. The silence was too long when Jungkook asked about the pendant. Have I been blind all this time? Asterisk. The door of the building creaked as Jungkook pushed it. Dark. Silence. Except for one voice. The sound of someone's footsteps. Wait inside. Small spotlights suddenly light up, forming a halo in the center of the room. There stood a young woman with a black hoodie covering her face. Who are you? Jungkook asked, his voice hoarse. The woman looked down, her voice barely audible. I am. Witness. For what? For the first betrayal ever committed to you. He raised his face. Jungkook's eyes widened. He knows her. You are their old assistant manager who was fired for personal reasons years ago, a reason that turned out to be much darker than it was told. Ara clutched her phone tightly, showing it to Jungkook. A voice recording is played. Asterisk. If the secret is leaked, we are all exhausted. Me. I have to protect Jungkook from the truth. Jimin's voice sounds tired, almost crying. Asterisk. Even if it means betraying him? Another voice, male, colder. Asterisk asterisk, even if it means lie to him for life. Jungkook retreated, as if struck. Jimin is a traitor, but also protect. Asterisk asterisk from what? Asterisk Ara looked at him with blank eyes. You're not just Min Hyuksaer, he said, his voice flat. You, also the reason why your family was killed. Suddenly, the sound of clattering feet was heard from behind the building. A lot. That's a lot. Ara gasped. His eyes widened in fear. They found us. Jungkook turned quickly towards the door. Black shadows appeared, approaching, men in hoods, armed. Ara pushes something into Jungkook's hand, a small pen drive. Protect this, he whispered, before running the other way, distracting the pursuers. Jungkook ran, breaking through the narrow passages inside the old building. The sound of gunfire echoed behind him, bouncing on the concrete wall like a drum of death. Breathing is heavy. His knees almost gave up. But he knows, if he gets caught, all the answers are gone. He jumped out the window, hit the muddy ground, rolled over once, then got up again, continued to run into the darkness of the night. When Jungkook finally manages to escape into a dark alley in the city center, he leans against a wall, panting. He took out a pen drive from his pocket, looking at her with trembling hands. Before he had time to put it in the small laptop in his bag, a heavy noise was heard behind him. Give it back, or you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Jungkook, their eyes met. And the figure is not a stranger. It's someone from BTS's past, which has been considered lost. Don't move, Jungkook, or your family secrets will be buried with you tonight. The voice was sharp, cold, and very familiar. Too familiar. Jungkook turned his body slowly, his hands still tightly clasping the small pen drive behind his back. The narrow hallway was filled with the musty scent of wet garbage. Overhead neon lights flickered, creating long shadows that moved as if they were living beings. It was still raining heavily, drenching Jungkook's hair, attaching his clothes to his body like a second skin. And in front of him, the figure who had been thought to be missing. Kang Dae-jin. BTS's former trainee manager was abruptly fired for no apparent reason, then disappeared without a trace. Why are you here? Jungkook asked, his voice shaking furiously. Dae-jin smiled faintly, full of ridicule. Because you're starting to bring up the past that should have remained buried. He held up a small pistol in his hand, its metal gleaming in the dim light. Jimin betrayed you, because he knows if you find out, you will destroy yourself, Dae-jin said, walking over. All this time, all this, Jungkook muttered, almost in disbelief. Planned? Dae-jin nodded. It's not just planned. You're the center of it all. Jungkook's mind spun wildly. All memories, special treatment that sometimes feels awkward. Strange decision of the agency involving him. A whisper behind the stage that quickly fell silent as soon as he came. All this time I've been living in a charade. Dae-jin stepped closer. Give me that stick, Jungkook. Jungkook thinks fast. On the one hand, giving up means giving up the whole truth of his family. On the other side, to fight means to risk his life now. In a split second, she threw her bag at Dae-jin and ran to the other side of the hall. Exploding bullets hit concrete walls. Concrete chips flew. Jungkook slid down the main road, crashing into a crowd of people, hiding among the umbrellas of passers-by. Finally, after circling through the back alleys of Seoul City, Jungkook arrives at an empty park. Crouching under a lush tree, his hands trembled uncontrollably as he pulled out the pen drive. He remembered his mother's face, his father, their laughter, which now feels like a ghost. Why does everyone want me not to know? What they hide about me? Tears fell, mixed with rainwater on his cheeks. Just as he was about to give up, an umbrella suddenly opened above his head. He looked up. Someone stood in front of him, in a gray hoodie, head down. The man whispered, if you want to know who you really are, come with me. But you have to be ready to pay the price. Jungkook stared at the flash in his hand, then at the man's eyes. That Parkjimin. Jungkook got up slowly, his body trembling between anger and longing. Why did you betray me, Jimin? His voice was hoarse. Jimin smiled bitterly, his eyes glazed over. I didn't betray you, Jungkook. He reached into his pocket and threw a small key into Jungkook's hand. The key says an address and a word, home. Jimin's voice almost drowned out the roar of the night wind as they stood in front of an old house on the outskirts of Seoul. The wall paint is peeling. The windows are dusty. The wooden door cracked, as if anyone who had ever lived here had long since left the place, or be told to leave. The air around them was heavy, smelled of wet earth and weathered wood. Street lights flickered, creating moving shadows in the empty courtyard. Jungkook's steps were heavy as he approached the door. The little key Jimin gave me shook in his hand, not out of coldness, but out of fear of an answer that might be worse than a lie. Asterisk, if I open this door, everything I believed about my family, about my life, would probably be destroyed. Asterisk, but if I don't open it, I will continue to live in the shadows. Asterisk, he took a deep breath, inserting the key into the hole. Click. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a dark hallway that smelled damp. Inside, the room was empty except for one thing. An old wooden box in the middle of the room, illuminated by moonlight through a cracked window. On top of that box, a piece of shabby photo. The faces in the photo made Jungkook freeze, himself, still a child, with a woman who is not his mother. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps galloped outside. Jimin shouted, "They found us. Grab the box and run." Jungkook. Without thinking, Jungkook lifted the box and ran out, Jimin following him. From behind the trees, figures dressed in black appeared, chasing them silently. They ran through the wet streets, through the narrow alleys and alleys of the almost empty night market. Silent shots fired, hitting power poles and billboards. Jungkook grasped the box tightly, as if his life depended on it. Asterisk, what's in this box? Until they're willing to kill me for it? Asterisk, they hid behind a woodpile behind the market. Jungkook looked at Jimin, his breath hunting. Why are you helping me? His insistence, his voice almost broke. Jimin looked at her for a long time, before finally whispering asterisk, because I know the pain of being the puppet of the family you think loves you. With trembling hands, Jungkook opened the wooden box. In it, there are several objects: adoption papers, confidential medical records, and a handwritten letter. The name that made Jungkook's world stop spinning, cutejimin. I'm not who I thought I was all along. Jungkook closed his eyes, nausea rising to his throat. His whole life, all the love, all the memories, was probably a lie. Or worse, something built on blood and betrayal. The sound of footsteps approaching again. Jimin pulled Jungkook to his feet. We have to go. There's somewhere else you need to look, where it all began. Jungkook lifted his face, his eyes burning with renewed determination, that I would disassemble everything. I want to see everything, no matter how bad. And they ran into the darkness, carrying the truth more dangerous than death. If I die before I have time to tell you, then no, none of this is your fault. The first sentence in the letter pierced Jungkook's chest sharper than a bullet. His hand trembled as he held the yellow-brown paper. The ink on it began to fade, like a trace of someone being slowly erased from the world. Jimin watched him from the corner of the room, his face tense. Outside, the sound of sirens faintly approached. Their time was running out. The room where they hide is narrow and smells musty. Neon lights flicker on the ceiling. The sound of mice running between piles of wet cardboard. But the only thing that sounded loud in Jungkook's head was his own heartbeat. I want to know the truth, right? But why does it feel like I'm destroying myself? Asterisk, his hand gripped the letter tighter as he read. John Jungkook, my son. You are not my blood, but you are my life. I found you, a little abandoned baby, in a big fire in Busan that year. Everyone thought you were dead with your family. I'm taking you away. Saved you. But I also made a mistake. I give you to those who do not deserve you. I just want you to have a better life. But I was wrong. If this letter reaches your hand, it means that I can no longer protect you. Trust me, the person you think is your family, hiding more secrets than you can imagine. And they will kill to defend it. Jungkook's tears flowed without him being able to bear it. I've been looking for love from my family, which isn't even my family. And a man who truly loves me. In fact, I never knew. She looked at Jimin, her voice breaking. Why? Why are they doing this to me? Jimin looked at her with wistful eyes. You're not just a kid, Jungkook. You're the key. Jimin opens his phone and shows a photo. A strange logo. The image of two coiled snakes is depicted on the back of a gold ring. This belongs to the people who want you dead, Jimin said. And your family is part of them. Suddenly, the door of the room was hit hard from the outside. Jungkook and Jimin were stunned. Heavy sound is heard, hand over the boy. And you can still live, Jimin. Jimin shook his head quickly, cold sweat drenched his temples. We can't run anymore, whispered Jimin. We have to fight. Jungkook felt fear all around him, but in the midst of that fear, something else emerged. Willingness to endure. To seek the truth. To protect the only person he now trusts. He grasped the secret box firmly, staring at the almost broken door. Asterisk. If I have to fall, I will fall while fighting. The door was finally broken. The shadows of several masked men entered. Jungkook grasping a hard object from inside the box, a small key-carved snake emblem. As the men advanced, he and Jimin looked at each other one last second. Then they enter into a battle that will determine their future. Okay, here we go. We go straight to episode 10 a huge emotional climax that is devastating, full of surprises, and still leaves a little mystery at the end. I made it stay cinematic, intense, emotional, and there is a cliffhanger sense of hanging typical drama thriller. One more step, and I burn your whole secret before the world. Jungkook shouted in a hoarse voice, clutching the small key in his bloodstained hand. Smoke filled the room. Jimin's body lay in a corner, struggling to stay conscious, blood seeping from a gunshot wound to his shoulder. Before them, the masked men were now in doubt. Shocked by the wild courage of a boy they thought would just cry and give up, the sound of gunfire echoed between the concrete walls. The smell of gunpowder and thick dust pierced the nose. The floor shook with every little explosion heard from outside. In the midst of the chaos, Jungkook only focuses on one thing: protect the truth. I'm scared. Very scared. But more than that, I'm angry. They ruined my life. It makes me lose people who love me. Makes me question myself. I won't let them win. With a roar full of anger, Jungkook throws a small explosive device they found earlier, a desperate improvisation that she and Jimin prepared while hiding. Many explosions create chaos. Smoke filled the room. Scream. The sound of heavy objects falling. In the chaos, Jungkook ran toward Jimin, dragging him out through a narrow back alley, his back burned by heat and splinters. As they shuffled toward the half-collapsed exit, Jimin took a heavy breath and said, "Lock it." Jungkook, that's the key to your father's real bunker. Jungkook's eyes widened. My father is still alive. Jimin smiled faintly, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. It's not the father you think, but someone, more importantly. As they managed to get out of the burning building, the sound of helicopters was heard approaching. The silhouette of a person standing in the shadow of spotlights, dressed in a black suit, his face hidden. Jungkook sculpted. The man walked closer. His every step echoed to the beat of Jungkook's own heartbeat. When the helicopter lights finally lit up his face, Jungkook gaped. It was a man whom she had seen so far only in ancient photographs. The man who was supposed to be dead a long time ago. The man looked at her full of emotion, his hoarse voice sounding electrifying. Jungkook, you're finally home. Jungkook felt the world collapse and build itself in one breath. Her tears were mixed with blood and sweat. He wants to run. Want to hug the guy. Want to hit him. Want to ask why is all this happening? But his lips could only tremble, unable to utter a word. The man glanced at the small lock that Jungkook grasped tightly. I know a lot of questions in your head, he said slowly. And the answer, it's in the bunker. He reached out. Come with me, and I'll tell you everything. Behind the man, more shadows appeared, armed men, black vehicles, a mighty force he could never fight alone. Jungkook looked at Jimin, who could only nod weakly, leaving the decision to him. Jungkook clenched the lock tightly. The choice before his eyes. Believe and step into the dark past, or fight back and lose all answers. The sound of helicopters grew louder. Dust swirled around them. Screen blackened. What did you choose, Jungkook?